Good evening and welcome to another edition of EOH AMTV. My name is Rudi Barnard. I'm the head of the Technical Services Division for EOH Application Management. And tonight we're going to be discussing data freedom. So let's look at the agenda. We're going to be discussing value-added alignment, ensuring success, effective service modeling, and data freedom and visibility. So this is really where we're going to get into the nitty-gritty and discuss how do we actually use the data that's being monitored and what visibility do we provide to different parts of the organization to derive value. And then we're going to look at our different delivery models through which we provide this. So value-added alignment, as we said again, what is it that we're trying to achieve? We're trying to provide you with visibility and control of application performance and availability while aligning your IT and business initiatives and priorities. But what we need to focus on tonight is really how do we do this? So we do it through an APM solution that provides services that can proactively detect, prioritize, isolate, diagnose, and prevent performance and availability issues of business critical applications and services. So in order to ensure success, there are key factors which you have to take into account, and it's these four key factors. Tonight we're really going to look at two. One is going to be the improved visibility into these initiatives once they're in production from both a business and IT point of view, and a way to measure, display, and report on these initiatives in real time across various parts of the organization. So if you remember from our previous sessions, in this visual we were discussing actually doing effective service modeling. How do we map a transaction that a customer is doing through IT architecture, applications, server systems, different components? How do we map it through an architecture in order to derive value, to understand that a customer is affected, and if a customer is affected from an end user perspective, what component is causing that actual failure or service degradation? So in some of our previous sessions where we discussed the approach towards monitoring, we were discussing data that needs to be collected and the layers at which data needed to be collected, etc. But purely just collecting data really means nothing. It's what you do with the data that counts. And the way we see it, we need to create data freedom in an organization so that information is shared between peers within a company. So that's from IT all the way through to business. And we really see that happening on 4 layers. So one, you need to provide dashboards, reports, and alerts in a siloed fashion to your infrastructure support teams and your network teams, because this is really how they support their environments. Infrastructure is broken down into various silos, being NT, Unix, Windows, Linux, virtualized platforms, etc., and equally so from a networking perspective. So we need to provide visualization in that fashion to these support teams. The second tier really is providing an integrated application type view that you can provide to application support teams, architecture and management. So how do different systems make use of one another and integrate with one another to provide a business service? Then we need to provide a business process flow type view to business management and application support teams. So what are the systems that are traversed when a transaction is done from a business process perspective in order to realize this transaction on a high level, so that we can understand if a customer is affected by poor performance, in which area do we have to start looking. And then at the 4th layer, we really talk about executive dashboarding and reports that should be provided to executive senior management and support. Tonight, however, we're really going to focus on the first 3, being your siloed approach, your integrated architecture approach, and business process flow type view. We will cover executive dashboards in a separate session. So let's look at the first, siloed visibility. So siloed visibility, as I said before, is provided to Windows, virtualized, Unix, Linux, you name it. It's provided to those different support teams in a very simplistic siloed fashion. So the product that I'm going to be showing you tonight is HP's BAC or BSM solution, as it's called now. So in this view, what are we looking at? If you look at it on the navigation panel on the left, you will notice that we're looking at AIX servers for one of my customers. So you can see in this environment, there's 4 AIX servers. If you select any given server on the right-hand side, you'll be able to see what is being monitored per server, what the status of that is, what the previous status of that component is, and you'll be able to drill into those actual components and understand what the actual measurement is at this specific point in time. The next layer we look at is architecture visibility. So these views provide end-to-end architecture views, which will drive accurate root cause analysis, enable you to do proper to improve your mean time to repair, and provide you with the ability to understand component interdependency. So how do we do this? If you look at this view, this is really the architecture view for a specific vending service of one of my customers. So what you'll be able to see on the bottom left-hand side of the screen is the actual experience from an end-user perspective. So is this application available? How is it performing? And this is really defined by business, and this is where your SLA measurement comes in. Then we can see that that transaction traverses multiple tiers in order to realize an actual transaction back to a customer. So in this view, we're able to provide architects and support staff with the entire architecture that is traversed when transactions are done in production. As soon as something fails within this architecture, we will be able to understand which layer it is part of and if the customer is affected by this outage. This really is powerful because now we can actually manage our risk and understand that if something's failing and our customer is not affected, it's not a severity 1, it might be severity 2 or 3, and it will be handled and managed in that fashion. However, if we start looking at something, for instance, like your web cluster we have on the top left-hand side of the screen, if 3 or 4 out of the 6 servers fail, immediately we'll know that, hang on, the customer will probably be affected by this. We need to start remedying this. It is a SEV 1, at which point we'll probably see that a customer is affected, and now we can start working on the issue. This starts addressing the problem that many senior executives have within organizations, not knowing what the customer is experiencing, and also not knowing once that fails, who's to blame for it? Where does the issue sit? Through this view, you'll immediately know, is it my web layer? Is it my security layer? My authentication layer? Is it in my database layer? Because this enables you already to do proper root cause analysis and say, fine, we don't need to disperse 10 different people to go and investigate the problem. Let's just send the guys responsible for the web layer. There's an issue on 2 of their servers. They need to remedy that and sort it out. So immediately become more efficient. Your mean time to repair becomes shorter, and your root cause analysis is more efficient. This is another example of the same thing, just for a different application. It's a bit more simplistic. So here you can actually see it's a JDE application that we're monitoring for a customer. And in here, we're actually providing them with visibility of exactly the same information. So as you can see on the top right-hand side of the screen, we're monitoring from 3 different sites for this customer. We're providing you with availability and performance from each site. Equally on the left-hand side of the screen, we're also monitoring this from within their data center so that we can actually also account for the WAN and explain what the performance is between internal and external. So from this view already, you can understand if there is outage, we'll be able to know, is it a global issue? Is it localized to a specific branch? Or is at our core, is this application just extremely slow? Equally so now, we can see the architecture. You can see that the customer would come in through the web cache that would communicate to 2 WebLogic instances that in turn connect to the actual JDE enterprise server, and that then queries the SQL database to get specific information. So immediately we start understanding how these different components depend on one another and what the key areas of failure could be. Equally, for this customer, we built it slightly differently. So they wanted to segregate or separate the information. They wanted to know, show us the information on app level, hardware level, and network level. So if there's any failure from any one of those components, we want to have more detail. We want access a lot quicker so that we can derive whether it's hardware, app, or network that's actually causing specific failure. Now remember that this information that you see in here is a custom view. It is really, there's a lot of metrics and information that sit behind it, which you can access, but we really get to a point where we find that we need to simplify this information to the customer so that they can really do proper root cause analysis. So if we look at the next layer, which is layer 3, we need to provide business process flow visibility. Now this you really will see is the sort of view that we provide to senior management, where they can see, you know what, for this vending system that we have external vendors that we do this vending through, and we have internal users that actually do transacting against this vending service of ours. Our internal users are coming through an admin layer, accessing a database layer, and the external are coming through a web layer, security layer, integrated layer, and database layer. Now, if you remember 2 screens back where we really showed you the vending service architecture, this is an extract of that at a high level, showing you what the different components are that are touched. So all of that data is now aggregated to a view like this, where somebody that's very senior that doesn't necessarily understand architecture can just look at this view, know if the external customers are experiencing failure, know if the internal customers are experiencing failure, and what the actual flow is of data through these mechanisms, so that if something is affected, they at least know where and who they can speak to. Another example of this, which is a bit more complex, is a specific integration path which we built for a customer. So you can see that you have users accessing a GTX system. This system is a work request system, which eventually creates work orders back into the Maximo system on the right-hand side of your screen. Information then again is passed back through their integration layer to a system called CCMB, where other users again pick this information up and make use of it. So here we're really depicting the flow. So we can see user 1 would come in, access the GTX system. That would then communicate with your Letsema server. Your Letsema server would then go through your enterprise integration layer, and so on and so forth. So you can actually see the flow and how these components depend on one another. The point here is, if something like a Letsema component is down, we can immediately see that probably none of this transacting would happen. And we would understand again what the impact of that to the organization would be if there is a key point of failure like this. And again, it just makes it so much simpler to understand the root cause of failure and how to mitigate the risk on the back of that. So that's pretty much it. As I said, guys, this is just an extract of a bunch of custom views that we've structured for our customers. There's a lot of out-of-the-box views which we'll go through in a later session, so I can show you how these products actually look and feel on a customer site. Let's quickly look at our delivery models. Again, implementation services, where we will implement the technology for you. Co-source solution is really a hybrid, where we can have a combination of your people, our infrastructure, your infrastructure, software. Again, you can own it, we can own it. It's really a hybrid model which we tailor for our customers. We have an outsourced solution where we can literally do everything on your infrastructure and everything else is outsourced. Or we have a software as a service where we have this technology in the cloud and we access your environment, monitor your environment, push that information up into the cloud, and we provide the services on the back of that to run everything down into your NOC, your first tier, second tier support if need be. Related topics that you can also go and look at, other videos that we've done: executive visibility, how to use your CMDB, benefits of diagnostics, benefits of integrating end user monitoring and diagnostics with HP BAC or BSM. Guys, that's it for tonight. Please visit our website or contact us at EOH. Thank you.